and gentlemen, I have the distinct privilege and the high honor, along with Dr. Richardson, to introduce to you the Lynchburg City Schools Teacher of the Year for 2017, Mrs. Heather McCormick.
I think I'm probably the only person in history of that interview who made herself cry by asking herself her own question. And I just said, you know, if you were to ask me why I deserve to be Teacher of the Year, my answer would be, I don't. Because I work with the greatest staff ever on the planet. Even though they don't act like it. Not the staff, the kids. We work with the greatest students on the planet. And I come in every day and do the best that I can do. Like everybody in this room. And if I do something right, we celebrate it. And if I do something that ends up turning into a mess, then we go back and try to fix that and do over the next day. I am so honored, just beyond belief. I do bleed blue, and I just cannot put into words how much this means to me. And I will do my best to represent you guys and Lynchburg City.
I want to thank Dr. McLean and his staff for actually all the logistics and coordination of making this happen. As you know, the goal of the Virginia Teacher of the Year program is to recognize dedicated, knowledgeable, and skilled teachers at the local, regional, and state level. To select the Lynchburg City Schools Teacher of the Year, the school division used a nomination process whereby school staff, principals, and school division administrators nominated teachers for this honor. A team composed of parents, a past Teacher of the Year recipient, and central office staff then interviewed the nominated teachers. The team gave special consideration for the following characteristics: experience in the school division and in the field of teaching, professional development activities, classroom performances, membership in professional organizations, and community involvement. It is my pleasure this evening to introduce to you the Lynchburg City Schools Teacher of the Year. I'm going to introduce her as the final piece. I want you to know she is an English teacher at E.C. Glass High School. She has spent her entire career as an educator, including her student teaching at E.C. Glass. Beyond the role of classroom teacher, she has served as the newspaper sponsor, the activities director, English department chair, mentor teacher, club sponsor, freshman class sponsor, senior class sponsor, and a member of the school's PBIS team. In addition to these roles, she has served as the school's coordinator for the Virginia Center for Inclusive Communities programs. As the VCIC coordinator, she has led the school's participation in Project Inclusion, a 4-day retreat that provides students of various backgrounds the opportunity to come together to discuss topics around diversity and inclusiveness and how bias affects students within their own school. She is also working on finishing the arduous process of attaining national board certification. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and honor to introduce to you the Lynchburg City Schools Teacher of the Year, Ms. Heather McCormick.
Dr. Brabrand, members of the school board, and distinguished guests, thank you so much for giving me this time to reflect on the honor of being named Lynchburg City Schools Teacher of the Year. This evening, if I may, I'd like to tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was a small girl. She used to spend Saturdays with her grandmother, who baked with her,
let her help with the daily crossword puzzle, and walked her to the library. This girl's grandmother was a lifelong learner herself and encouraged her granddaughter to learn everything she could and to read everything she could get her hands on. By reading, this little girl was able to travel to faraway places, solve mysteries, and become a hero. It wasn't long before the little girl began sharing stories with others. She played school in her room all the time, and she would sit in her rocking chair and read to her captive audience of stuffed animals and her not as willing little sister. The little girl loved to read. As she grew older, she decided to become a teacher so she could share with others her love of books. She knew she had to work hard in school to become a teacher. She had parents who asked her about her homework and drove her to the store to buy index cards for studying or poster boards for projects. She had people in her neighborhood and in her church who encouraged her. She had a whole host of teachers to use as role models: Martha Booker, Patty Day, Joe Siegel, Pam Rosenberger, Janice Kessler, Mary Stokes, Mrs. Jackson, Jim Cope. She knew, because everyone around her told her she could, that she was going to be and do what she dreamed. That little girl became a teacher 20 years ago at East Glass High School. That little girl is not so little anymore and stands in front of you today knowing that she might not be if she hadn't had all of those chapters in her story: the doting grandmother, the supportive parents, the extraordinary teachers. We all have our own stories. My friends at the Virginia Center for Inclusive Communities and the many students I have seen experience Project Inclusion have taught me that. Our students have their own stories too. Some of their stories share all the components of mine as a young child: a foundation rooted in the basics, the nurturing and support of friends and family, and powerful educators. Yet some of their stories are lacking, to say the least. As teachers, it is our jobs to learn the individual stories of our students, to find which chapters are there and which aren't, and begin to fill in the gaps. I am so proud to be able to do the job that I've always wanted to do. I'm incredibly fortunate to work at the best high school with the best colleagues and teach the best students on the planet. I am so lucky to have learned from the best: Patty Worsham, Sherry Armstrong, Diane Stroud, Betsy Garrett, Sue Malcolm, and to have been able to share my failures and successes with my three favorite guys, Drew, Andrew, and Cooper. I couldn't have done any of this without your support. It is a privilege and honor to be recognized here tonight. Thank you to my colleagues at EC Glass, Jessica Barger, Dr. Richardson, and the interview panel. Thank you for allowing me to represent Lynchburg City Schools.